First of all, thank you to all of you for taking time out of the schedule. I know there's a lot going on. I have a lot of friends speaking here. And thank you to everyone at Difford's Guide and for the Athens Bar Show. This is my first time at the bar show in Athens. Congratulations. It's a hell of a show. It's not my first time in Athens, though. For those of you who don't know, I've been coming here for a very long time. And what I mean by that is that I've been doing this for a long time. I'm honored to be able to do this. I started coming here originally, I came here in the 80s because I was pouring Greek wines in my restaurants in the United States and we didn't have any to choose from. And it was the beginning, and there wasn't really a renaissance yet, but I tasted a couple things. And in the 90s, I tasted a couple more. In the late 90s, I started coming here regularly, and by the time 2001 rolled around, I saw that there was this huge renaissance happening that the world didn't know about. So by 2003, I had become a fanatic of Greek wine and spirits and was teaching about them and sharing them all over the world. And as a result, I basically was making an excuse to come to Greece as often as possible, not only because I love the food and I love your culture and I love the place, but most importantly, I think your greatest national asset is you, the people. And I come here for that. And I am here today for that very reason. As I was lucky enough to begin to experience the renaissance of Greek bartending, because it's happened during the times that I've been here, and being involved in the trade, it was something I always watched and monitored. The fact that Telly won the World Championships put you guys on the map, but as you all know, it was already happening here, or he wouldn't have had that opportunity, and quite frankly, it just kept building. And probably, for me, the most exciting part about the Renaissance in this country is the community. It's the way all of the bartenders here share with one another and collaborate with one another. And quite frankly, that's what makes our community great. Whether it's in the UK or the United States or Australia, it doesn't matter. Wherever we are, when we come together, that's what shows like this are about. We all come together to share information. And to me, it is my motivating force. It's what drove me to do this. I've been doing it for over 40 years, believe it or not, and I knew as a young person in this business what I wanted out of it was, number one, I wanted it to become a craft and a profession where I could have this much respect. I didn't need much. But if I got asked one more time what I was going to do when I grew up, if I got asked one more time what I did for a day job, or what I was going to do at the next stage once I'd done this fun thing, and I was very serious about it, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. And for 30 plus years, I worked really hard to help to create this community, to help to make this into a profession we can all be proud of. And believe me, it's not just me. There are hundreds of us all over the globe, and now tens of thousands, which is amazing. I think the most amazing thing to me today is the young people, as many of you are in this room, that come to me and want to learn and want to be bartenders. You say, how do I get your job? I want to be a bartender. That didn't happen in the old days. We became bartenders mostly by accident. And to me, it's an incredibly beautiful thing. Now, did everybody get 2 cocktails? Have you all taken your second dose? Or have you gotten your 2 little medicine cups? I'm sorry, they're so small. You can barely even taste them. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. When I first started coming here to taste the amazing wines and spirits, I was blown away by the quality level that you guys took for granted. I was blown away by the stuff that was like just off the shelf that you could get. What I was most blown away by were the 600 indigenous grapes growing that nobody had ever heard of, that nobody knew what to do with, some of which were lost forever, that were being grown in certain places around this country in isolated vineyards that were making some of the most special wines I'd ever tasted in my life. And in the late 90s and early 2000 area, that time period, winemakers were ripping this stuff out and planting Chardonnay and Merlot and Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc in particular around here, because they believed that that was the future. And they thought the only way to get their foot in the door of the American public was to make Chardonnay and Merlot. And I said, oh no, please, please, stop. your treasure, your point of difference, your amazing moment will be the indigenous grapes. You just got to give us a little time. Give us time to teach people about these grapes. Give us time to teach people how to pronounce them. For me, the hardest part, now I can say Xinomaro, and I can say Adiargitico because I practiced for years. But I said to them, you're worried about us pronouncing your grapes. We taught an entire nation to pronounce Glunnervetliner, and if we can do that, we can certainly learn how to say Moscofilabo. It's easy and it's sexy. So, what if you just stick with what you're doing and let us help you bring it to the world? Don't change a thing. Make your indigenous grapes. Have them grow in those ancient soils, in those sometimes never seen phylloxeras, in the most remote vineyard sites, up in the mountains where nobody could imagine that you could grow grapes. Because what you have is magic. And in my time working with these people, I experienced their wines, I experienced their culture, I experienced their food, and I experienced spirits along the way that kind of blew my mind. Because it was something they considered just part of the meal, something they considered just part of what they do, something that was so obvious and natural to them, but of course you'd never drink it in a bar. You never pour it anywhere except at the end of a dinner, or maybe with some missing, maybe in a bar, but only for appetizers, never for anything serious. And I said, you've got a treasure over here. You've got something really, really special. So, let me tell you what is going on in those drinks. I know this big mystery here. Can I tell them now? Is it time to start talking about the mystery? All right. The first drink that you have is a drink called Grape Crush. It's a drink that I've served in several bars, and when I first created it, it became a huge hit in the Lower East Side of Manhattan because it was summertime, and it's refreshing, and we needed that drink as kind of a welcome cocktail. And it's pretty simple to make, and it's pretty obvious, and it's pretty delicious. You like it? It's delicious. Really easy. And it is, of course, grapes, obviously. Grape Crush, we call it. The Grape Crush is fresh seedless grapes. We use lemon like you would in a caipirinha. So we muddle demerara sugar and lemons instead of limes because of the spirit that we're using. Then we add some grapes and muddle that in. And the spirit that we used in that cocktail is something that you know, but I'm going to save that for you. The second drink will tell you more about this spirit, because that is another of my drinks, and that is a drink that speaks a lot to who I am and what I'm about. I was in Los Angeles, and I was doing a charity event with some other bartenders. We were doing a guest bartending gig, and we were focusing on certain spirits that I love, that they love. It was a mezcaleria, so we were doing Latin stuff. And in my bag, I had a bottle of something that I really loved that I wanted to share with the guys. And I broke it out, and we tasted it, and they all freaked out over it. And I was saying, I know, this is like my pet. This is my baby. I love this stuff. I can't seem to get anybody to think about it. Every time I put it in a cocktail, they freak out. As long as I don't tell them it's in there, they freak out about it. So I made this drink with two of the best bartenders in the world. I don't know, Ryan Fitzgerald or Raul Stroza. They're two buddies of mine. We were all together. We're all behind the bar. And we decided that we should make a drink with my favorite things. A few of my favorite things. Mezcal. I think you all probably know my thing about mezcal. So it is Santo Domingo Alvaradas from Del Maguey. Sherry. You probably all know that I've worked with Spain also for many, many years, and sherry is kind of my thing. So it's Lustau, East India, Solera. And the third ingredient of what we ended up calling a drink, at the time, that night, we called it the Holy Trinity. Then we realized we would probably piss off a lot of people if we called a drink the Holy Trinity. So we changed the name to the Oli Trinity because as Olson, as a kid growing up in a Norwegian town, Olson is called Oli. So Oli Olson, so it's the Oli Trinity because they're my three ingredients. Mezcal, sherry, and cipro. That's what's in that drink. Then the bitters, it needed bitters. But instead of using bitters, we use bitter, an amar, an amari in this case. a little bit of Chinar. So it's basically equal parts mezcal and cipro, with 3/4 of a part of this kind of sweet, beautiful old sherry, and just a little bit of Chinar with an orange peel on top. Very simple, very straightforward, exactly the way I like to drink. And we started calling it the Holy Trinity and then changed the name to Holy Trinity. And the reason that I wanted to put these both out there is because I want to put my money where my mouth is. This is all happening today because I made a statement. I think it was at World Class, wasn't it? Judging World Class? I was being interviewed by some amazing journalists from this country. And we were talking about World Class and all this other stuff. And I'm like, all I wanted to talk about was cipro. They're like, what, are you crazy about? I said, yes, I am. Because it drives me crazy that Greek bartenders don't serve cipro in their bars. And I said, it's probably the most underestimated spirit in the entire planet. And Denny said, can I quote you on that? I said, yes, I'm serious. Can you tell? So let me tell you a little bit about why I'm so anxious and excited up here. Here's the deal. It is a farmer spirit. It is a village spirit. It is a community spirit. It is part of your freaking culture. It is part of your history. And you've decided, I guess, except for 3 or 4 of you in the planet, that it isn't good enough for your bars. And yet every time I show a bottle to any of my friends anywhere in the world, they freak out. They're like, how do I not know about that? And I said, nobody seems to. Maybe it's only because there's a tiny bit. So when I first can imagine sitting with winemakers in a meal, talking about the future of winemaking in Greece, and at the end of the meal, they drop this crazy-ass brandy in front of me, and I taste this stuff, and it's the best one I've ever had at that moment, and I'm like, oh, right, wait a minute. Just stop talking. Who made this one? Oh, it's these guys over here. We give them our pumice and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no! Stop dismissing. What is this? So, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you why I'm here. I'm going to explain this to you, and I'm going to ask you to just suspend your beliefs for a moment. I'm going to ask you to just, all the things you've been taught culturally, all the things you've been taught in bartending, all the things you've been taught by your friends and your peers and growing up and whatever, just take it with a global viewpoint. Because, see, it drives me crazy that when I come here and I want to drink the cipro in a great cocktail bar, you want to show me all the shit that I see everywhere else. You want to show me how global you've become by showing me the world's global spirits, and I think that's awesome. You want to show me the techniques you picked up in bars and in conferences around the world, and I think that's amazing. But the thing is, why wouldn't you bring that back to your own indigenous juice? To me, there's an opportunity here, and I think we're just missing out on some of the historical aspect that maybe we should take into consideration. So, bear with me a second. When I first started working in mezcal, the first producers that we started working with, one of them, the family had a still. The very first producer we ever worked with was using a community still. There was one still in the village. And in between farming and subsistence lifestyle and everything else they did, the farmers would go out and harvest agaves in the wild. They'd bring the agaves down and they would roast them. Then they'd go and use the community still to make a batch of mezcal. And they would trade mezcal or money. This is Oaxaca, so maybe a goat or a chicken. And they would get their mezcal that they used from the community still because nobody could afford them. The first time I tasted cipro in this country, I tasted cipro that was made by a guy in the neighboring village because he had the still. And the winemaker that I was with gave him wine and all of his pumice so that he could make cipro for himself and give him his year's supply to drink with his friends and at dinner. What is the difference? It's a community. It's a farmer-made spirit. It's indigenous to your country. So, when I first started working in mezcal, I know you think mezcal is the hottest thing right now, and it's the fastest growing spirit. It's awesome. We started 21 years ago preaching the gospel of mezcal. For 17 of those years, nobody drank mezcal except for 7 of my friends who are all in this room right now. It was just us. A few bartenders, a few sommeliers, and a few chefs. But slowly but surely, champions of the product, we took it to the world. In Mexico, there's a tradition. Mezcal is that moonshine. It's that nasty stuff. It's white lightning. You don't drink mezcal because you'll go blind. Now, you all think it's really cool because you've met Mexican bartenders lately, or you've been to DFA lately in Mexico City, and they're drinking mezcal now. 5 years ago, you couldn't drink mezcal in Mexico City. And the young people in Mexico would tell you, it's terrible. We don't drink that shit. We only drink tequila. 5 years ago. 8 years ago, there was not one mezcaleria in the country of Mexico. Not in Oaxaca, not in Puebla, not in Michoacan, and certainly not in Mexico City. You couldn't drink pulque unless you went to a farm and found it. I went in search of pulque and spent 2 weeks finding pulque 20 years ago. Today, there are pulquerias and mezcalerias, 36 of them in Mexico City. The first one opened 6 years ago. Now, how much of a change in attitude is that? They wouldn't touch the stuff because the thought process, the way they were raised, is it was bad. Now, granted, there is bad mezcal. And there's probably bad spirit here too. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about supporting farmers. I'm talking about embracing artisanal, crafted spirits. Those were 2 different Cipros in those drinks. Did everybody get another cup right now? Guess what we're going to do now? Taste some straight Cipro. Single varietal, handmade, artisanal Cipro. Now you try to tell me that that doesn't belong on the world platform of great quality spirits. I'm not done. Don't take my word for it. I got friends. I've got some people who are going to talk to you. But lest you should think that this is new to me or me making this up, I want you to understand that all the way back in the Hellenistic period, they were doing distillation of a product called Trima, which became Cipro later. That in Mount Athos area, they created this concept of what we know today as Cipro. The first tax laws on alcohol in this country were not on wine, they were on Cipro back in 1883, and you know how tax laws on alcohol work, right? Got to tax that because that's our luxury, all right? In 1886, there were laws that were passed that changed the way we think about it. But in 1989, they created this thing of official distillers, which began to change this little local community thing that I'm preaching and teaching. But it also took some of those guys and made them the official distiller for their area, which made it beautiful and changed the way we think about it. But if you don't believe me, is this not enough? In 2006, the EU gave Cipro, Cicudia, and Ouzo a PDO. Do you know what that means to the rest of the world? These are Greek spirits made with Greek grapes by Greek producers in Greek, on Greek land in Greece. For God's sakes, does that not speak from your? Forget it, I'm American, for God's sakes. To me, look, think about it this way. If I were to go to Edinburgh and ask for a scotch and they tried to talk me into drinking vodka, I'd want to punch the guy in the face. Okay? If I were to go to Mexico and I wanted to try a mezcal or a tequila and they tried to make me drink their new gin, I'd be like, are you out of your mind? And yet I come here and I can't even find a Cipro. Because what? Because you haven't found that quality? Because you're not I've got more, but right now I'm going to call upon some friends that are going to help me with this, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little video. Most of you know who Sullivan does. Sullivan has sent us a video about the use of indigenous spirits and at his bar, and I want you to hear what he has to say. Just please, bear with me. We're almost through the pain, I promise.
Hello, fellows. My name is Sullivan. Originally from Sulidopoulos. I've been bartending for a while now, and as you can see, in every bar there's every single country drinking alcohol. So that's why in Paris, as a French guy, I decided to open the syndicate, a very first cocktail bar using only French alcohol to support our local producers and just to showcase the diversity we have in terms of alcohol. With my partner, we just drove everywhere in France to meet the producers straightly, 70% of our bar, we met the guy who make it. So it gives us the ability to really talk about it and to share all this knowledge with the customer. Last time I went in Greece was in May, and I had the opportunity to do guest bartending in a restaurant in Alissa called Mezen. And Greg Chambers, the owner, showed me a lot of different type of tipro. And I believe that in Greece you have enough diversity to focus a bit on your product to showcase. I mean, I'm doing really well with the mastica. In every bar, every cocktail menu has cocktail with mastica, but I believe that tipro and the macomelo and stuff. Even in France, in Paris, we have a nice diversity of Greek product. And so yeah, I believe that next time I come to Greece, I would love to be informed about different quality of tipro and just sitting at the bar and drink your product because they're really amazing. Hello, fellows. My name is Sullivan. Originally from Sulidopoulos.
That's the same one. It's not on the... I can listen to him again. Okay, there's more. I'm not alone in this fight, all right? Some of you may know Yanni Samanas from The Trap. He's one of the handful of bartenders I met in Greece who actually has embraced Tsipro, actually likes it, and actually makes cocktails from it. And we were going to feature one of his today, but they wanted to feature mine because that is putting my money where my mouth is. But I want him to talk to you about some of the things he does with it in a Greek bar in Athens. Yanni?
Thank you. Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Δεν ξέρω αν ακούγομαι. Ακούγομαι. Τώρα ακούγομαι. Λοιπόν, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που με καλέσετε εδώ σήμερα. Έχω να πω δύο πράγματα. Σε πρώτη φάση νιώθω πολύ μεγάλος για τον λόγο που είπε πριν, ο Στυλ, και πολύ μικρός παράλληλα γιατί 10 μήνες πριν δεν σε έπειρα ούτε τσίπουρο ούτε ούζο στο πάρτι. Σίγουρα μια παρότριση στο να μπούμε σε μια τέτοια διαδικασία εγώ και τα παιδιά τα οποία δουλεύουμε στο τραπ και συμβάλλα σε αυτό το κατάλογο, δηλαδή ο Στέφανος Περγανιτάκης και ο Γιάννης Αλεξόπουλος, ήταν το ταξίδι μας στη Γαλλία, στον Πάρκο Σάλβα, ο οποίος χρησιμοποιεί μόνο γαλλικά προϊόντα. Σίγουρα ήταν το event που κάναμε στη Λάρισα παράλληλα με το Σάλβα και σίγουρα ήταν και όλη αυτή η εποχή που δυσκολεύει πάρα πολύ την κατάσταση στα μπάρς. Αυτό το οποίο λοιπόν με καλέσανε να σας πω εδώ απόψε, σήμερα, είναι ότι ο λόγος ο οποίος ξεκινήσαμε να χρησιμοποιούμε ελληνικά προϊόντα στο μαγαζί. Οι λόγοι ήταν δύο. Επηρεαστήκαμε πάρα πολύ από την παγκόσμια αγορά και αντιληφθήκαμε αφελά μας ότι ενώ ταξιδεύουμε πάρα πολύ, κάθε φορά για δώρο πηγαίνουμε ένα ελληνικό brand, το οποίο μπορεί να είναι ούζο, μπορεί να είναι τσίπουρο, μπορεί να είναι μαστίχα ή ένα κρασί. Αυτομάτως συνειδητοποίησαμε ότι όλα αυτά τα οποία εμείς πηγαίνουμε σαν ένα γενναιόδωρο δώρο προς τους ανθρώπους που θα μας φιλοξενήσουν στο εξωτερικό, δεν τα χρησιμοποιούμε στα ίδια μας τα μπαρ. Οπότε όλο αυτό δούλεψε κάπως υποσυνείδητα στο μυαλό μας και ξεκινήσαμε σιγά σιγά να αντικαταστούμε πράγματα τα οποία ήταν όπως π.χ. το αψέντη, χωρίς να παροτρύνουμε κάποιον να μην χρησιμοποιεί όλα αυτά τα προϊόντα. Απλά έτσι σκεφτήκαμε εμείς. Αντικαταστήσαμε το αψέντη σε κάποια κοκτέιλ τα οποία χρειαζόντουσαν αρκετή περιεκτικότητα σε γλυκάνισο, χρησιμοποιούσαμε ούζο. Αντικαταστήσαμε π.χ. το πίσκο, το οποίο είναι ένα απόσταγμα από σταφύλια, Και αντί να χρησιμοποιήσουμε επίσημο, χρησιμοποιήσαμε τσίπουρο. Και κάπως έτσι ξεκίνησε όλο το κατάλογο και εξελίχθηκε. Και αν έρθετε στο μαγαζί, θα συνειδητοποιήσετε ότι πάρα πολλά προϊόντα μέσα στο κατάλογο, αν το δείτε λίγο αναλυτικά ίσως, γιατί δυστυχώς η προκατάληψη η οποία έχουμε για τα ελληνικά προϊόντα δεν μας επιτρέπει να γράφουμε ούζο ή τσίπουρο, αλλά να αναφέρουμε π.χ. απόσταγμα από σταφύλια, γιατί ακόμα και οι πελάτες κλωτσάνε, δυστυχώς, και δεν το γνωρίζουμε τον λόγο. Και σιγά σιγά όλο αυτό έχει αρχίσει και δουλεύει. Σίγουρα είναι τιμή μου που βρίσκομαι εδώ και με έχει καλέσει ο Στίβ να μιλήσω για αυτό το κομμάτι των ελληνικών προϊόντων. Σίγουρα είναι τιμή μας που σαν χώρα έχουμε διοργανώσει κάτι τόσο μεγάλο. Τόσοι άνθρωποι από το εξωτερικό έρχονται και μας βλέπουν και μας συμβουλεύονται κατά κάποιο τρόπο. Αλλά σίγουρα δεν είναι τιμή μας αυτό το οποίο κάνουμε τόσα χρόνια και παραδέχομαι ότι έκανα και εγώ πριν 10 μήνες στον πάρκο. Δεν σε μοιράζονται τσίπουρο ούτε ούζο. Ελπίζω όλη αυτή η παρότριση μαζί με τον τύπο και τον Στίβ να μας οδηγήσει σε ένα άλλο προβάτι, όπως εξελίχθηκαν και άλλα προϊόντα παγκοσμίως. Πιστεύω. Αυτά είχα να πω. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ και πάλι.
We have one more video that I want to show from somebody that I think you know, a man that I have been honored to get to know for many, many years and become. I'm honored that he considers me his friend, because to me he's one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, and he taught me a lot. And it was actually with him that I was having dinner that it wasn't my first cipro. It was my first moment where I said, oh my God, what is that? I've had the opportunity to travel this country. And in my years of working here, get to know a lot of amazing, amazing people. And I told you earlier, that's what keeps me coming back. You know, we're all going to be dealing with the tragedy that happened in the United States last night. I'm sick about it. We can't even talk, please. I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about my future. I'm worried about my home. I'm mostly worried about all of the producers in Mexico who I consider my family, because they won't be able to climb the wall, but they will certainly tunnel under it. The issue, though, is, and you've been through your thing, and yet we managed. And I kept coming back here over and over and over, even when I couldn't get money out of your banks for my consultancies, because that's what we do. We do this because we love it and we care. It can't always be about money, can it? To me, what I have seen out there in meeting the people who actually make the products I'm talking about, and you're right, it includes mastica, it includes ouzo, because I don't know if you even realize ouzo comes from cipro. It's become your national spirit, but ouzo, you know how cipro can be both flavored and not flavored? Well, flavored cipro is where ouzo comes from. If you do your research and go back in history, it was flavored cipro that became the category of ouzo. And I can tell you more about that maybe in another seminar, because we don't have time today. And I'm a fanatic for all of them. And I use them all in bars all over the world, much less in the United States. But one thing I've seen here is the pride in artisanal distillation. The largest producers here make very artisanal products. And what most of the world thinks ouzo is, for example, is something sweet and sambuca-like. But what we know here is it's complex, it's dry, it's often distilled almost to proof or even to proof. You know, there's the consumer ones, but the most of them are really artisanal products. And what I would say to you is this. You know I got a little bit animated a few moments ago. I really mean this. When I started working in mezcal, it wasn't about turning the world on to mezcal. I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know that one day everybody would drink mezcal, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew that it was one of the greatest spirits in the world. I knew that I was going to turn people onto this because I knew that I knew people that when they tasted it would feel it. They would taste it and freak out, but they would also feel it. And that's what that spirit is about. When I taste cipro, I feel it. It's different than factory-made stuff. And what I say to you is, you have an opportunity right now to embrace this, You have an opportunity right now to take this spirit and make it your own. Like you said, why is this? I love Pisco too. Can you imagine? I work with a Pisco. I've helped design Pisco. I go to Chile and Peru. I love them. But can you imagine if I went to Peru and ordered a Pisco Sour and they told me, oh, let me pour you a Cipro drink? But you do that here with their drink. I don't get it. They're similar. They're both made from similar grapes. And yet you're selling theirs. You think they're selling yours? Don't think so. You want to help your own economy? You want to build your own nation? You want to have pride in who you are and what you do? This, to me, is an absolute no-brainer. I keep getting these questions. How do I not know about this? How are Greek bartenders not embracing this? And like I said before, I know you want to embrace the whole global thing, but you already have. It's beautiful. The whole world, look, anybody who doesn't recognize the Renaissance that's going on in Greece right now in bartending hasn't been here, or they're just clueless. All right? You come here and you feel it. Look, this event, this room, the passion is insane. Now is your chance to say, okay, we showed you what we do. Now let's show you who we are. Now let's show you what we've got. Let's bring back to the world something that is ours. I could go on forever, but I have a friend who wants to speak to you, and I'm going to bring him. He's going to speak in Greek. I've had it translated for me. I started to cry, so I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to let him talk. And I'm going to say, thank you for listening to me preach. I'm sorry if I got a little too animated for you. No, I'm not sorry at all. The hell with that. I am excited about what you have here. I'm excited about your single most important national product, which is you, the people. Take what is yours and show it to the rest of the world. I can't even begin to tell you what that's going to do. If I could tell you the social reform and change and development that has happened in Oaxaca as a result of them finally being able to show their artwork to the world. Children are going to school and eating and having clothes and clean water. Now, I know that there isn't that kind of poverty here, but I also know you're going through some serious issues. What could you do by supporting your own products? I'm just saying. Please listen to a friend of mine, and thank you very much for your time.
Θα ήθελα να συγχαρώ όλους εσάς για αυτή την πρωτοβουλία και να σας πω ότι λυπάμαι που δεν μπορώ να είμαι σήμερα μαζί σας. Πόσο μάλλον που εκεί μαζί σας είναι και ο Στίβ, ένας φίλος από τα παλιά. Η σκηνή των μπαρ στην Ελλάδα είναι σε πάρα πολύ ψηλό επίπεδο. Ελληνικά μπαρ είναι μέσα στα 50 καλύτερα του κόσμου. Οι νέοι bartenders, εσείς δηλαδή, αντιμετωπίζετε με πολύ μεγάλη σοβαρότητα τη δουλειά σας, εκπαιδεύεστε, δοκιμάζετε, ταξιδεύετε, πειραματίζεστε, είστε αφοσιωμένοι και κυρίως αγαπάτε τη δουλειά σας. Αγαπάτε αυτό που κάνετε. Ταυτόχρονα, οι περισσότεροι από εσάς, αν όχι όλοι, είστε απόλυτα ενήμεροι και προσπαθείτε να περάσετε και στο κοινό σας την αντίληψη της υπεύθυνης κατανάλωσης. Ένα πάρα πολύ σημαντικό πράγμα για τη σημερινή κοινωνία. Αν και είμαι ηνοποιός, θα ήθελα να σας πω δύο λόγια για τα ελληνικά αποστάγματα που αν μη τι άλλο ήταν γνωστά και στο εξωτερικό πολύ πριν γίνουν γνωστά τα ελληνικά κρασιά. Μπορώ να σας πω με βεβαιότητα ότι πάρα πολλοί Έλληνες παραγωγοί και κρασιών και αποσταγμάτων φτιάχνουν πια και παράγουν πολύ υψηλό επίπεδο προϊόντων. Αλλά για πολλούς από εμάς και από εσάς είναι ακόμα συνδεμένα μόνο με μεζέλες και καφενεία των παππούδων. Εμείς έπρεπε να φωνάξουμε τον Steve Olson από την Αμερική για να μας μιλήσει και να επιβεβαιώσει την αξία τους. Τα αποστάγματα ποτέ δεν θα μπορέσουν να περάσουν στη νέα εποχή και να αποκτήσουν την αξία που τους αναλογεί, αν δεν τους δώσετε σημασία. Αν δεν βάλετε στην άκρη τις προκαταλήψεις και ενημερωθείτε για την παραγωγή τους ή δεν τα βάλετε στις γευστικές δοκιμές δίπλα-δίπλα με άλλα αποστάγματα ή spirits. Αν δηλαδή δεν τους δώσετε μια ευκαιρία να πειραματιστείτε μαζί τους για να αποδεχτείτε ή να τα απορρίψετε στο τέλος, αλλά χωρίς προκαταλήψεις. Θα είναι πολύ ωραίο η δική σας γενιά να είναι αυτή που θα βάλει με νέο πνεύμα και νέα λογική το υλικό απόσταγμα στα μπαρ. Ευχαριστώ. Γεια σας.
Θέλω Θέλουμε να ευχαριστήσουμε. We would love to thank very much Steve. I'm ashamed that you're so passionate for something that we were not. It was in a trip in. It was in Orient Express wagon, some like 3-4 years ago, that he made me start thinking about Greek spirits that I didn't even think about. And it was 7 months ago that I was tasting the chipro that you tasted now, and I said it's such a pity that people in Greece will not. We will never taste this thing without. Can I speak in Greek?
Yeah.
I'm very emotional.
I know what you're going to say. Speak in Greek. It's easier.
Ότι κανένας από εμάς δεν θα το δοκίμαζε χωρίς προκατάληψη και να πει ότι αυτό θα μπορούσε να είναι ένα New Western Gin, ένα φανταστικό ποτό. Και βάλαμε με την Ελένη να στείλουμε το μυαλό μας με ποιο τρόπο θα μπορούσαμε αυτό το πράγμα να το δοκιμάσουμε όλοι χωρίς προκατάληψη. Και ο Στίβ έκανε ένα comment κάτω από κάτι που είχε γράψει, γιατί μου είχε πει ότι οι ιταλικές γράπτες είναι υποδέστερες των ελληνικών τσίπουρων και έγραψε The most underestimated spirit in the world, indeed. Και αυτό έδωσε τον τίτλο στο σεμινάριο και ο λόγος που δεν σας λέγαμε ποιο ήταν γιατί ξέραμε τι θα έρχεται. Εμείς σαν Difford's Guide νιώσαμε την ευθύνη, εκπροσωπώντας ένα παγκόσμιο site στην Ελλάδα, το μεγαλύτερο σε κοκτέιλ παγκοσμίως, να αυτά τα ελληνικά spirits να τα βοηθήσουμε να μπουν πίσω από το πάρ. Και ο λόγος που αυτό όλα τα δοκιμάσατε ήταν unbranded, είναι όλα εμφιαλωμένα spirits. Είναι unbranded όμως γιατί θέλαμε να δείξουμε ότι κανένας δεν μας πληρώνει να το κάνουμε αυτό το πράγμα, το κάνουμε επειδή το πιστεύουμε. Και είναι κάτι που θα υποστηρίξουμε όλα τα επόμενα χρόνια. Ήδη το Μάιο οργανώνουμε ένα συμπόσιο στα πλαίσια του Tinos Food Paths, που θα καλέσουμε πάλι ξένους από το εξωτερικό αλλά και εσάς, να φτιάξουμε καλά κοκτέιλ. Όχι τσιπουρίτο και ουζίτο, αλλά σαν τα κοκτέιλ που δοκιμάσατε με το Steve.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που ήσασταν όλοι εδώ. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ και τον Steve Olson και τον Γιάννη Σαμαρά. Ελπίζουμε σήμερα να μπει και ένα ούτε καν λιθαράκι. Κάπως να σας μπήκε στο μυαλό λίγο διαφορετικά όλη η ιδέα για τα ελληνικά προστάγματα, για το τσίπουρο, για το ούζο, ακόμα και για τη μαστίχα. Τα αγαπάμε πολύ. Θα κάνουμε τα πάντα για να τα στηρίξουμε όπως οι περισσότεροι πιστεύω έτσι και αλλιώς το θέλουμε. Και ελπίζουμε να σας έχουμε κοντά μας σε όλες τις κινήσεις που θα κάνουμε για τα δικά μας προϊόντα. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.